decision. It was a foolish decision if they did make it. But I think they got it made for them by their proxies in Yemen. And now they have a problem because the Yemenis are coordinating with the Iraqi militias, as I mentioned, and with Hezbollah, and the Saudis are boxed in. And one of the things that the attack on the Egyptian natural gas carriers demonstrates is that the Houthis can close the Bab el-Mandeb to Saudi and Saudi-related shipping, which is all they've done. They've not again instituted a general blockade. The blockade is only of Saudi-related shipping. But the Saudis can now have to use the Suez Canal to get their oil products out. And the Iranians have just demonstrated they can attack that. So they can hit the Mediterranean, they can hit the Suez Canal. So I think, I hope the Saudis have enough intelligence to reinstitute the truce that they had with the Houthis, which lasted 4 years, and to caution the government in Aden that it should not again provoke an attack on the kingdom. As for the economy, of course, oil exports are down in volume. They've been up in value. But the kingdom's economy now is actually not entirely dependent on oil as it once was. It's more complex. And container ships and other things that go in and out of Saudi ports in the Gulf, the Persian Gulf and the Red Sea, have not been getting through. So Saudi Arabia has had much of its transport connections to the world, if not shut down, at least slowed, interfered with, and interrupted. So I'm not surprised that the economy is taking a hit. And I'm sure that is painful because the Saudis have been running deficits for some time. They have a very extensive welfare state, which they have to support, and which is essential to the survival of the monarchy.
A Guardian reported yesterday that Saudi forces are planning a major offensive against Houthis in central Yemen. And Saudi Arabia is preparing for a potential land and sea offensive to break the blockade on the oil export. Do you think, are they going to do that? That's going to be a suicide.
I think it's possible. But my guess is that this is a show of force to back a negotiation with Ansar Allah to try to call all this off. Because, continuing this isn't good for anybody. The Yemenis have suffered terribly from civil war and from attacks by the Saudis, from attacks by the United States and Great Britain during their blockade of the Red Sea. The Saudis are attempting to reorganize some sort of international force to open the Bab el-Mandeb. I don't know whether they'll succeed in that. I doubt it. But they would clearly like to get the United States involved again against Yemen. But here, I want to make a point which is all too often not mentioned, and that is there are supply line problems for the U.S. Navy. I think there are 25 vessels or so in the Gulf of Oman, the Arabian Sea, and these vessels can't acquire fuel locally. That fuel has to come from very far away from the United States, go around Africa, and now it can't go through the Suez Canal. So that's one problem. The other problem is food. You can't buy food locally. So the food has to come, again, from the United States or very far away. And this is enormously fatiguing and expensive for the Navy. So I think, the Iranians look at this, they understand this, and their calculation is that the U.S. will not be able indefinitely to sustain a blockade, and that the U.S. will have to sail away, as we did after failing to defeat the Houthis some years ago. So, anyway, I think that the wear and tear on both sides is very considerable. I mean, Iranians can't possibly enjoy being bombed, although they seem to be very good at repairing railroads and bridges and this sort of thing. And Americans, fortunately, up to now, there's been no Iranian attack on American soil. But I think that's an entire possibility. Iran has the capacity to widen this war, even to the domestic scene in the United States, not just in the region. And I think, if we go on far enough, we will push them into doing that.
I think that's the dream for Benjamin Netanyahu and Zelensky. Both of them want to continue this war.
But the problem is, continue the war with what? Apparently 3/4 of our Patriot loads have been exhausted. THAAD, which is a key system for longer range missile interception, has been depleted too. And these things take 2 to 5 years to produce. Iran, doesn't have the sophisticated weapons the United States does, certainly not the missile interception capabilities, but it does have weapons that can penetrate American defenses, and those defenses are very thin. And again, going back to the notion that Iran is actually trying to force American forces to concentrate in Israel, Iran has the capability to hit Israel very effectively, and more so now than ever because of the depletion of these interception capabilities. So, I think what I've heard is that in Jordan, the U.S. is holding back on intercepting Iranian missiles if it can determine that they're not likely to kill anybody. So let them come through, because we can't afford to further deplete our supplies.
How do you see the role of Ukraine? And it seems that Zelensky is wants to merge the two wars. That's going to help him. And here is what he said on Fox News.
His conflict with Iran linked to your war with Russia?
I'm not sure. We didn't speak about it, really.
Do you?
I think yes. Look at this. Russia gave drones to Iran. Iran used these drones attacking Middle East countries and Israel. It's true? Yes, it's true. The details are Russian details in the destroyed drones. Everybody saw this. This is the field. Then Russia gave satellite images where American bases in the Middle East countries. They gave it? Yes, they gave it.
And you're convinced?
Absolutely. Then Russia is very happy. We know from intelligence they are very happy that there is no ending the war, real ending the war in the Middle East. Why? Because they understand that since United States in this war, they can't help Ukraine on the same level like it was before. Mm-hmm. For example, with the Patriots. Yes, like one example, and there are a lot of other examples.
Yeah, I think that's very clear. And you can understand his perspective, certainly. It's very unfortunate, however. I think he skipped over the fact that the Russians actually have been using Iranian technology and drones against Ukraine. So he did not take the final step of saying Iran is the enemy of Ukraine. He focused on Russia. And I suppose that is the justification for the attack on an Iranian ship in the Caspian Sea that was carrying Russian, something related to Russian goods of some sort. The Ukrainians claim it was carrying military goods from either Russia to Iran or the other way around. Yes, very clear he's trying to do this. And we see, Laura Loomer, the infamous Laura Loomer, whom you quoted at the beginning, in Islamophobic basically manipulator of Donald Trump, who engineers attacks on people in the administration whom she considers anti-Israel or not supportive of Israel. We see her now going to Ukraine and becoming a supporter of Zelensky. So how did that happen? I think pretty clearly we're seeing a coordinated effort, and that is buttressed by the fact that apparently the budget for the Ministry of Strategic Affairs, which conducts hasbara, or exculpatory propaganda for Israel, has been quintupled. It's been increased by a factor of 5 because Israel is losing the public relations battle in the West. So now it's resorting to dirty tricks. I think, there's another possibility, of course, the attack on the Egyptian ships. They may have been an Israeli false flag operation. We don't know. There's a lot of history of that on the part of Israel. So this is all getting more confused. The war is not going away. It is expanding. There's no prospect of diplomacy to end it because the United States has completely violated all diplomatic norms and does not have envoys to Iran who have any credibility. And Donald Trump does not understand what he's doing. And clearly he began this war with no understanding of Iran or Iranians, and he continues it on that basis. His assumption is that if you hit Iran hard enough, it will surrender, but it's not going to surrender. And so the war will continue.
That just a new photo came out. Here it says that the new attacks, Saudi attacks on Yemen, the capital in Sana'a. And this is just came out. And I don't know what is happening in the mind of these people in Saudi Arabia, because they saw what has happened in Ukraine. Ukraine was destroyed because of the continuation of the war. And the expansion of this war against Yemen, Yemen doesn't have that much to lose as much as Saudi Arabia has to lose.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. That's why I said, and I believe that Saudi Arabia would be wise. I hope they are. Accompanying whatever they're doing militarily or threatening to do with a negotiation with Ansar Allah, because this war is not going to be good for anybody. Not for them, not for the Yemenis, and I don't think it will be good for the other government in Yemen, in Aden. But I want to make a point here, and that is Saudi Arabia has public opinion, and Saudi Arabia has been attacked by Iran on numerous occasions, Prince Sultan Air Base in Al-Kharj in particular, but other facilities. And the Saudi public demands revenge. And now it has got someplace to conduct revenge without necessarily involving Iran, because involving Iran would be disastrous. And Iran has been very careful. The Houthis, the Ansar Allah, didn't really support Iran against. They didn't do anything, unlike Hezbollah, which did. And now they are involved against Saudi Arabia. But I see this as really a Saudi set of policies aimed at the defense of the kingdom against perceived threats from Ansar Allah, from Iraqi militias, in the past from Hezbollah. I imagine part of the picture here is the unrest in Bahrain, where the public is increasingly estranged from the monarchy. And they don't have the ability in Bahrain or anywhere else in the Gulf to do what was just done in Jordan. That is, Jordanians coming together and writing an open letter saying, remove the American forces, because they are a threat to us, not a means of our defense. Jordan is a constitutional monarchy, and they can do that. But don't try that in any of the Gulf Arab countries.
Do you think that the possibility of a diplomatic end to what's going on? Is that still there, or as time goes by, somehow the expansion of the war is just wiping out that possibility from the scene?
No, I think what we're seeing on the American and Israeli side is essentially pointless violence. It does not support any diplomatic approach or decision. Quite the contrary, it complicates and prevents a diplomatic solution. I think Iran would be quite willing to have a diplomatic solution, provided that solution left it in control of the Strait of Hormuz, and therefore sustained the escalation dominance that Iran has achieved. But we're not going to get there. So my view is that at this point, the only conceivable diplomatic solution is one organized not by the United States, but by a coalition of international actors, international countries who have a stake in freedom of navigation through the Strait of Hormuz, and who would be able to sit down with Iran and Oman and work out a set of rules for the management of the Strait of Hormuz that is acceptable to them and to Iran and Oman, and therefore preserves, if not complete freedom of navigation, much of it. Why? Because you look around the world and you'll see countries like China, like India, many others, Japan, Korea, Europeans who have a big stake in the regime that the Strait of Hormuz is subjected to. They don't want to have a toll gate there. If they're going to have to pay fees, they would like those fees to be based on some agreement that they represent real costs, not just extortion. But generally speaking, Nima, diplomacy is dead everywhere. Where is there a negotiation going on? There's none going on about climate change, which is a huge problem. And if you live in the Persian Gulf region, it's possibly fatal because heat can become so high that you can't survive. And so who's doing anything about that? We just saw that China, in its new 5-year plan, evidently plans to take the global lead in dealing with